Hey there, welcome to episode 132 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo, as usual, recording this at 11:23 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in Greater Vegas on Thursday, June 4, 2026. We normally publish new episodes of the FFS Talk audio program on Thursdays, sometimes in the morning, usually earlier in the day, but we're pretty close. FFS. If you don't know what FFS means, we got to bring in some Irish experts and have them describe what that is. Today's title and topic, participation as support. If you're not familiar with the FFS Talk audio program, well, you've come to the right place. The idea is to bring up topics, subject matter that is interesting, hopefully, not always, and perhaps in conversation with a guest or two, engage in discussion concerning what works, what does not, and what we might do about it. So not everything is just a slam dunk. Should we continue breathing? Yes. Next topic. But some things are a little bit more nuanced. Like today, participation as support. We'll see where that goes. All 132 episodes of the FFS Talk audio program have been monologues. I prefer to think of this as planting some seeds for future conversations, although I can also look at it as not proactively seeking guests. That's probably true also. Planting these seeds has been an interesting exercise for me. It's not always easy to come up with both sides of an argument, but it's actually a worthwhile exercise, and more people should consider that. So participation as support. And will we ever, ironically, suppose someone wanted to be a guest on this program just to support the effort. Would that be worthwhile? I would say no, unless they have now someone may have a genuine, real point of contention, or they may have a different viewpoint and so on. And they may say, you know what, I'll take a chance. That's different than, oh, I'll be on your show just because you need a guest, right? So that's a reasonable example of what we'll be talking about today. What does it mean to be supportive of a friend or a colleague? When does participation tilt over into performance art, perhaps? Is it worthwhile? Should you be authentic all the time? I think so. Spoiler alert. So that's the FFS Talk audio program. One of these days we will actually get some guests and some counter arguments. Argument, debate, conversation. It depends on the topic and the people involved. Could go in any direction. You never know. So that's the FFS Talk audio program in a nutshell. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, which I will read to you, and the links for today's episode. It's only the two, the homepage and the profile page, linking everything. So let's get started so we can get a jump on this triple-digit summer starting here in Greater Vegas. Yay! Hot days are the best days to stay inside and make audio programs. On that note, let us begin with the summary of today's episode. We have all been there on either or both sides of this. You want to support your colleague, so you buy a ticket, you like their post, you reshare blindly on social media, or maybe your colleagues are doing this to you. I mean, for you. Or is it to you? Yeah, it depends. It all depends. Spoiler alert, that will basically be the conclusion of this, the outcome. FFS Talk homepage, ffstalk.com. Someday that will be the primary point of publication, and I'm thinking that should be the place you go and perhaps fill in a web form or something like, hey, I want to argue about this, or whatever it is. So always a work in progress, never enough time, always procrastinating. I'll tell you more about that later. Profile page linking everything. I have had this page for over 5 years now. Just over 5 years, 5 years and coming up on 3 months. You do not have to spend money here. The buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo profile page is a free-form link tree of sorts. I have links to all of my audio programs in various places where you can find them. then there is also the affiliate links towards the bottom if you do want to kind of meet in the middle on throwing some cash in the tip jar. If you click on an affiliate link, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but I get some number of pennies out of it, which is troubling since they don't make those anymore. There's some biographical information up at the top. There's links to the programs. There's links to some projects. So it's just a general, here's what I'm up to and here's why I'm doing all this stuff. Why do I talk about these things so much? You will also find the weekly Monday morning Buy Me an Update audio program, formerly published exclusively in the posts section of my buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile, but posting podcast content on Buy Me a Coffee was not really the right way to go. Nobody goes to Buy Me a Coffee to listen to podcasts. So it is posted there first as a sort of a legacy continuation, but it is published about 2 hours later in the usual places: Apple, Amazon, Spotify, RSS feeds, YouTube, of course, for the transcripts, free transcripts. YouTube is still problematic as far as reading the episode. The conversion to a single frame video is fine, and then it will often mark them as private. But ultimately, I think the free transcript is worthwhile for at least an attempt to make the show accessible to all, perhaps. You can always listen to it on YouTube as well. So yeah, you can listen to that on Monday mornings. It's 5 minutes or less. It's a quick rundown on the topics of the episodes from the previous week, and then any news and announcements. I can do that in one place. Hopefully people will consume those announcements and act accordingly. So let's, I'm not exact. I mean, this is kind of an odd topic, but I'm going to give the first example is the main reason why this troubles me. So let's introduce this with some some variations on this theme. There are extreme versions of this scenario, the participation as support. Not necessarily a colleague, it could be anybody. Usually it is someone you don't know. Or it could be a Facebook friend, which is about the same thing, where someone will, for example, share a missing person report. I hate these. Often on a social media platform like Facebook. This was a while back. I don't even know if I haven't used Facebook in like 2 or 3 years. So I don't know if people are still doing this, but it was rampant. And I happen to have been working on an idea for a kind of a missing person. We call it search parties, a missing person tool to kind of coordinate those first few hours. Hey, so-and-so wandered off, disappeared. So kind of to help coordinate the efforts of people on the ground before you hand it over to law enforcement or try to contact Amber Alerts and so on and so on. So an interesting idea, and it actually moved over to Innovate for Vegas Foundation. So ideally it will become a thing we do for free. So I was paying attention to these things. So there's some context for you. The missing person post, especially missing children, people will share them. They will reshare them. They will interact with the post with little pressed palms emoji, broken heart emojis, and so on, without anyone in this chain actually checking that the case has been resolved. Like the vast majority of them, the person was found, for better or worse, or people. Sometimes it was multiple missing persons. This was often true with children. Of course, those are the worst case scenarios. But they would have been found. Oh, they were found safe 3 months ago, or maybe not as good a scenario, but months and months old. But they would share it, and this was considered pro-action. So in other words, and this doesn't always come across to people, so I will make an attempt. If there's a missing person post, I can do something. I can go outside and look for the person. I mean, if they're here locally somewhere, that's doing something. Or I can reshare the post without reading it, and then someone else will have some time on their hands and they'll say, I could go outside and try to find a missing person, or I can reshare this post. And so you get a chain of people, it kind of fans out, and they're not actually doing anything, but they feel like they're doing something. And it turns out that they've wasted the time that could have been spent still doing nothing, but something more productive as nothing, or actual. So they've replaced doing something productive and proactive with a very passive activity of posting an expired missing person report. So I always found that to be disingenuous, maybe, or just a plain old, "Hey, I'm doing my part," and you're like, "No, you're not." Think about that time and energy resharing this information that was out of date. This is one end of the spectrum that we'll talk about today, and it's the bad end. It's the really bad end of the spectrum of possibilities, and so we're not really going to lean into that too much. That's probably a topic for specific focus some other time. I'm really out of date. Are people still sharing these? It would be like finding a missing pet. I don't mean to equate missing persons and missing pets, but for some people it is a similar emotional response. It'd be like going and taking a missing pet post, which people still place on light posts and other places. Oh, I'm going to take this, I'm going to make some photocopies, I'm going to share it around. It's like, you could have just looked for the dog or the pet instead of reposting these posters, because it turns out the dog was already found. So you could call the person. You'd say, "Hey, is this dog still missing?" Because nobody writes the date when they posted it on the light post and whatnot. So it's a generally broken system. People are they're not being proactively bad. They may have the best of intentions. These may or may not be your friends. They may be your Facebook friends, or maybe friend of a friend or something. But at the end of the day, it's a kind of a corruption of the system that maybe it needs some sort of cultural norms to be updated. But ask first, right? Hey, is this person been found? Or read the post. And again, all the time, the person had been found, for better or worse. I'm gonna get some water. Then there are those who will come to a friend's new restaurant to make sure it doesn't look empty. People don't like to go into an empty restaurant, but hey, there's people in there. They will show up to a performance to fill a seat or two. More if they bring some friends, which is actually okay. Right? Tell the people, share this out and invite them. That's some proaction. That's pretty good. They can help get the word out. They will go out of their way, make a trip, make a purchase where they didn't need to, maybe they didn't necessarily want to. This is the other end of that spectrum. Kind of strikes a balance between being a supportive friend. I'm going to use the word friend a lot, but friend, colleague, family member, whoever it is, actually they're actually doing something. Those are the kinds of people that would actually read the post first before they shared in the previous example. So this is the support that is a little bit more genuine, authentic, and it's not. I mean, let's imagine if I show up to your event, that is different than, I liked and shared your event on insert social media. So that proaction with sincerity, even that is the proper, more positive end of a spectrum. There is a negative case that we can touch on another time where someone might not participate to not support someone. This is a little bit too vindictive, perhaps, to be placed in this spectrum for today, but this is definitely something for another time. So let's ponder this range described, and we'll see where we end up. But I'm not going to. I think I mentioned the missing person scenario once by comparison, but it's kind of the worst. It shouldn't even count, and I'm really hoping people don't do this anymore. So I'll look around for a future episode and see what the state of affairs is. And we still have that project, that initiative in our collection of initiatives. So maybe someday I'll be able to say, guess what? We actually have a solution that we're trying. That would be neat. And my friends will give it a try. That's dark humor. Let's move on. What works? So showing support to a friend or colleague by showing up, whether virtually or in real life, especially in real life, is valuable. I don't want to take anything away from that. If only for the dopamine hit, right? If only one friend shows up and the room is otherwise empty, you only get one like on your picture, whatever. Okay. It's a little like, oh, okay. I know that person. But beyond that as well, it could help. A genuine act, especially if it requires movement or tangible effort, right, showing up in the physical world, is still meaningful. And thanks to referrer style, the is it net referrer? The network referrer score. How likely are you to share this with a friend, right? So if someone does do that, and it gets other people to make note, it extends the reach a little bit. These algorithms maybe will be helpful, and likes and other engagement with digital content can be just as meaningful from some perspectives as actually showing up. So again, liking a picture on your favorite photo sharing network. Why are you still using that network? But that can lead to the second like and the third like and so on. So it's nice, and if it's genuine, as I will mention later, if somebody just likes it because they like every single photo you take, and if people notice that, we'll get to that in the next section. Speaking of digital, there are likes and shares, there are comments, and then there is that little bit extra, talking up an event, an achievement, or generally letting people know with some authentic energy that some particular thing is noteworthy and that they too should check it out online or maybe out in the real world. This could be, well, it could go double perhaps when it comes to a more traditional review. If somebody's going to actually take the time to write a review, it could be a casual, like, instead of just writing, hey, this was awesome, you could say, hey, here's the things I liked about it, right? You actually lean into a detailed comment on something in some forum or on a particular post or wherever it is. You know what I'm talking about. Or it could be on an actual review site, you know the ones. And maybe people won't notice that, hey, why do you keep reviewing all the same person's works? Or how come you reviewed every single dish at this restaurant? Or, are you a super fan? Oh, okay. Are you a shill? So you kind of have to ride that line a little bit. But authenticity wins out usually. Reviewish places, as I wrote here. Yeah. One of these days I'll talk about, I think I've talked about it on Cafe Genius, the review platform we were working on in Silicon Valley. A new way of doing reviews. You've never heard of it because it didn't go anywhere. Generally speaking, participation by a friend in some public way can bootstrap or energize participation by others. It's the empty restaurant effect, if you like, and can be the beginning of organic momentum where other people join in and then they don't know you, but they still like what you're doing or what you're offering or whatever it is. And authentic, ongoing participation by the same friend or friends, maybe you have more than one, go figure, can be quite meaningful and helpful in these scenarios, right? So sometimes it doesn't matter that the same, maybe one or five or however many, whatever group of people who decide they're going to show up every time, and they're gonna fill some seats, or they're gonna make the place look busy, or whatever the case is. They're gonna buy 2 copies of the book each, whatever it is. Genuine authenticity, once again, usually wins out, and it even can override the perception that, oh, you're just someone I know launched a storefront recently, and the very first review was someone who I actually knew was merely going and posting a review of the place, may or may not have been there, may have been probably familiar with the offerings, but may not have actually been to the physical location, but wrote a 5-star, very brief review. It kind of smacked of, doing a favor, right? Being the first post. And then, of course, if you knew the dynamic, you would say, oh, that's sort of it's not an authentic review, right? The first 3 or 4 or 5 were most definitely people with some direct connection, glowing 5-star, all that stuff. So it's like, you got to kind of take that as a good intentions, may not come across well every time, but, so you can chalk that up to, that works with maybe an asterisk. Now, what does not work? Inauthentic participation can actually undo goodwill if it is spotted by others. I was kind of alluding to that. So that is, if one person is always going overboard, always liking the posts online, always submitting the first comment, always always sitting by the window so everybody can see them in the restaurant, even if the restaurant is empty, these can come across as phony, almost planted. Once the general population sees through this, the cover is blown. Pack it up. The missing person post scenario is sort of a variation on this. Like, you're just posting these, you're not actually doing anything useful. That's, your cover has been blown, but people don't, they make the missing person post outweigh that obvious, like, passive, not really effective. You're not really doing anything, but you think you are. I don't want to be too negative. Like I said, I don't think this is a bad intention. I just think it's a lack of awareness, I guess. But the missing person thing is so detestable that I hesitate to draw that example here. So, but yeah, once your cover is blown, it's like, maybe take a break. Occasionally, best intentions can actually crowd out organic participation. How could that be? Well, and this actually happened to me. Suppose you have a small event, maybe a coffee meetup intended for, say, 6 people at a table. Maybe it's a networking style event. You're not necessarily looking for leads. It's like, community outreach, community elevation type things. So you're doing it. There's always some possibility for networking and leads, but maybe that's the point. And a friend or two join in to lend their support. So that's taking up 2 chairs of the 6 openings. This is a question of reading the room, perhaps, if the coffee meetup is intended to draw in new people rather than recurring guests. So yeah, the intention is to not turn this into a default, let's just hang out every month. That's a different meeting. This sounds like a minor thing, but this comes down to the interpersonal stuff. Can you ask your well-intentioned colleague, friend, or family, whoever it is, that they recuse themselves from your event? Like, this is really intended for people who don't know each other already, or newcomers. And the seat or seats you're taking up could be for people who are new to this. That's why I'm doing this. So you kind of have to communicate. I know that's not always easy. This is less likely in the virtual world. You're probably not going to limit the number of people, but you can. That does exist. But I suppose it could happen in the rare circumstance. Probably something like an online video meetup. Not so much in the written form, but if you're going to have, or a chat style, but if you're actually having, conversation I'll say a Zoom call, but it doesn't have to be Zoom, then sure, if you're going to have 1 or 2 extra people that are there all the time, it starts looking like a panel, or it starts looking like the people that show up all the time are part of the show, or it turns into a show rather than an online meetup or something. So it can change the nature of the interaction you may be trying to accomplish. And your friends may have the best of intentions, but they may actually be undoing some of what you're trying to accomplish with those best of intentions. So it doesn't always work that the support comes in that form. Honestly, it'd be substantially more supportive if they would tell a friend. I'm gonna interrupt briefly with the food truck scenario. I talk about food trucks every once in a while. It's a long story. When I was in the Bay Area, it's not as true in Vegas, and it may or may not be true in other localities. In the Bay Area, there was a sort of an understanding, and this was when Twitter was Twitter was the way that you figured out who was where, if you liked food trucks. And there were so many, and there were so many opportunities because they embraced the lunchtime, no fee business engagements, right? That's a hard sell for some reason. Anyway, so any particular food truck person, like somebody who owned a food truck, would tweet like, hey, we're going to be over here today. But then they would remember that, if you grow the marketplace, you're helping yourself and others. So everybody wins. So you'd say, and if you're on the other side of the bay, check out our friends at the other place. So that sort of virtual, digital, online, whatever interaction can be helpful. So sure, they could have just liked a tweet, but what they're actually doing is saying, we're not going to be there, but you should go there. And I find that really rare in the general unless people, unless you're working with people who really are into social media dynamics, funnels, ratios, things like that. If they're actually paying attention, they'll say, "Oh, I'm gonna, I'm going to engage this post for reach," which is people understand what that means, but it is what it is. It's not quite as authentic, but it is functional. But if people would actually say, "Hey, I can't make it, but why don't you go check this out?" I did try to relaunch the Genius Launch here in Vegas, and the whole premise was I'm going to invite 2 people, and each of you invite 2 people, and we'll have like 7 people. That's a nice lunch to get this started. And I couldn't get the 2 people to take that pro action. Like, "Oh, I don't know who to invite." Okay. So they were going to show up, but not. So I'm like, well, I don't really want to have lunch with 1 or 2 people. That we can just do that anyway. That defeats the purpose. So there is sort of a cognitive dissonance when it comes to, oh, I should tell other people. That's actually more helpful than just showing up. Okay. End of rant. Suppose in a nearly worst case scenario, only your friends are showing up, engaging digitally, or even mentioning your activity at all anywhere. So only 1 or 2 people are doing any sort of anything. Again, these may be the best of intentions, so I'm not saying this is awful, but can this become frustrating, and a frustrating spiral perhaps at some point, where this engineered participation is artificially lifting the thing in question when it should be allowed to fail, right? If nobody shows up a couple times, all right, that's it. But if your friends keep showing up, it's all right, I'll stay open for business, or I'll continue having them. Maybe it's time to say, you know what, this is not drawing in people. We can interact anytime we want. We know each other already. So this could also be seen in the empty restaurant scenario. I kind of alluded to that just now. If the only people who show up are the helpful friends, this delays the inevitable shutdown outcome. Sort of a corollary to this, I would go and visit food trucks as part of my, we had an owners association, but I didn't actually own a food truck, but it's a long story, which I've told in my other episodes. Check it out at buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo to find them. Probably in Cafe Genius Impresarios, and definitely in Quaggling Sand. Okay, so I would visit these events, and everybody knew I was a big food truck fan, big supporter. So they would say, "Oh yeah, you want something?" Yeah. And I would sometimes say, I would accept free stuff, but most of the time I was like, I'm here hoping you will succeed. You're not going to succeed by giving me free food. Now, they knew I always took pictures, and I always did take the best picture I could take, right? I'm not a photographer, but I was conscientiously posting foodie pics of my various food truck adventures. So, there was an exchange of value there, but still, at the end of the day, if I'm the only one showing up and you're going to give me something, you're not making any money at all. So that can happen if your support network of your friends are the only people who are consuming whatever it is you're doing. So time to think about a pivot or other. So what can we do about all this? And this is not except for the missing person thing, which I think is kind of abhorrent. These are not critical issues I'm bringing up here today. It's something to think about. Not every FFS talk audio program needs to be powerful, consequential topics, but it's something to think about. These examples are few. There are variations on variations. Any particular scenario is subject to a balancing act of sorts, where a friend can help or hurt, and it really all depends. Isn't that always the case? Keeping it genuine and authentic probably makes the most sense, whether the actual interaction or the relationship, whatever it is, whatever the case, keep it real. If the world knows your friend is a supporter, that is not such a bad thing, if it is real, right? Communication is a thing here, especially with the well-intentioned friend or colleague or family member, whatever the case. But friend, whoever it is. Facebook has ruined that term. Friend they're not reading the room sometimes. So the real room or the virtual room again, right? So here again, the missing person scenario is a dramatically awful example, but there are those who will apply some digital engagement, a reaction or a like or similar, as a matter of course, without consuming the content or reading the article or buying the book or trying the food or whatever it is. I know people like this, and I think we all do, who will just, they will like, they'll like everything. Like. They have no idea what it is, who it is, they're just, if it's a friend on Facebook, I'm going to like your post. Well, that sort of devalues all those likes. This is a case where taking them, except for the reach algorithms and stuff. I understand that. But from an interpersonal level, like if you're not going to read it, then don't bother. So it depends. It depends. It always depends. This is a case where taking the person aside and asking that they either move toward genuine, which might be a good idea, or consider weigh the value of inauthentic likes. Right? You can do the math yourself. I mean, if you're only the way to read that is if you have one of those friends who just likes everything, and I think we all have one of those. So everything they're going to show up all the time. Oh, you liked by so-and-so. And that's the one like. At some point you're like, you might say to them, hey, you know what? You probably have time that you can spend on other things. You shouldn't waste it on being the lone. Now, if they were the first like or first interaction with some digital content and that led to 50 more or something, okay, maybe that's not so bad. But, hey, thanks, but it doesn't look like anybody else cares. By the way, did you read the article? No? Oh, then nobody cares. At the end of the day, this is the final. We're coming to the end of this episode, 32 and a half minutes in, before silence truncation. At the end of the day, it may make sense to lean into the performance, sometimes literally. Suppose your friends show up for your performance on an actual stage somewhere, music, slam poetry, open mic comedy night, whatever it is. I've done the open mic comedy. The room may not be enjoying you. That happens. But your friends could go all in anyway. They may laugh when others don't, et cetera, et cetera. And you can commit to that bit. Just make it, okay, you know what? Everybody else, forget about them. My friends are here. I'm playing for them. They're getting a laugh out of it, real or otherwise. I'm gonna commit to the bit. Even in the failure scenario, so long as the support is not artificial, it's not artificially extending the pains, if there are any, of things not going well, making the most of it on a stage or wherever, online, whatever the form it may actually take, could lead to something new. Maybe it's a learning lesson. Maybe it's maybe having that little crowd there and making a ruckus, laughing at things that the other people thought were not as funny. Maybe that will get some attention. Oh man, this person was here last month and these people are going nuts. But let me check this out again. Maybe something. You never know. And then if you own it, and I've very clearly been speaking from the perspective of the person doing the thing and then having the friends engaging or liking or participating as a matter of support, right? But if you were one of these friends, hopefully you took some of this as it is, right? With a grain of salt, perhaps. And again, none of these things are evil except for the missing person stuff. I think it's a matter of scaling how far overboard you want to do to support a friend, whether that's actually detrimental or if it's worthwhile or if it could lead to some other, pivot where people actually get it. So yeah, it's part of a process. I think that, people can, if you want to go all in on that, maybe that's where the value is. Like, yeah, I'm going to show up, but if it looks like things aren't working out, we should figure out how to make the most of, a built-in audience or something like this. This might be the outcome we're actually looking for here. So own it and join your friends after for some lamentations as needed, and then talk about, hey, I have a little group of people here who are going to show up. Maybe we should work together on making this into something where you're the first 5, not the only 5, et cetera, et cetera. So, this is not a life-changing issue except for the missing person thing. Don't do that. Go search for the missing person if you're going to do anything. This is more and more of a thing in our digital world where likes and engagement and algorithms run everything. So discoverability can be something there. I have multiple YouTube channels for my various audio programs. Nobody really consumes my content on YouTube because I don't think YouTube is great for podcasts, but they do the free transcript, which is nice. If we ever do video interviews, like if we had a person on this show to discuss, probably do it with a video for two reasons. One, people can see the interaction, and two, especially if you're going to argue, it's easier if you have visual cues, so you're not interrupting each other all the time. So a video version of an actual interaction could form the video arm of this production. So the YouTube thing is okay, but I only have like 2-3 followers or something like this. The views are very small because, again, YouTube is not the place for a podcast unless you have 1 million followers or something, maybe. So if somebody says, oh, I'll follow you on YouTube, which this happened to me, one of my followers went, oh, I'll just follow all of your channels. Okay, that doesn't really do much, but why not, right? If you reshared things, but at the end of the day, really it comes down to organic is fine. And if you enjoy, now I don't think they will actually listen to any of my programs anyway, so then it's sort of artificial and it's disingenuous. No, that's a negative connotation. It's not genuine. Maybe it is disingenuous, but it's not genuine. So I think what rules the day is genuine, authentic, good intentions, and directing those good intentions in positive outcomes, recognizing when taking up those seats or taking up those boxes in the Zoom call, like, oh, maybe this is not helpful, but how can we direct this supportive energy into something that is helpful? Can you help me get the word out, et cetera, et cetera? So I think participation can take many forms, and I think sometimes it isn't always obvious. Like, liking someone, liking something, some post by someone on a social media platform, a social networking site, whatever. Oh, LinkedIn post, I'll go ahead and like that. That doesn't really do it. And I do that too. Although I only do it for things that are actually interesting. So hopefully that's apparent, right? I probably, because I really don't like LinkedIn, I'll like maybe 2, 3, 4 things a day or less, sometimes 1, sometimes 0. So I use them sparingly and only for actually things that I actually read. I read the articles, I'll go to the website, whatever it is. So I think I'm myself trying to drink my own flavor aid here. And for what it's worth. Anyway, hopefully this was interesting to you. If you want to argue with me, come on down. Bring it. Otherwise, I hope you have a pleasant whatever day you're having, and whatever day it is, and a good week, whichever again. And if you're listening to this in the summer, try to stay cool. This year, apparently, Godzilla El Nino could be something fun, a memory none of us want to have. All right, that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you so much for listening, as always, and we'll catch you next week. Don't forget to check out my other audio programs on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. There's something for everyone. Take care now. Bye-bye.